All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring all the discussion back up this way. So if you are out of the tables and you want to migrate back, feel free to do that. I know sometimes it can be hard to, if you're facing that way, turn around. Whatever you want to do. Okay, so biblical principles that stood out to you. Some important ones that you thought were raised in the chapter, or ones that weren't raised in the chapter, you just think they're really good. Yeah.
What's that you're the steward, not the owner?
Yeah, that you are a steward, right, and not the owner. That helps in the giving away, I think. Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Every financial decision is a biblical decision.
Yeah. Did that sound like something we've talked about in here already? Do you remember the Y chart? And the overall theme of that Y chart was what? You may remember.
Are you going to go your way or God's way?
Okay, yep, so your way or God's way, and every decision is what? You may remember?
A chance to please God?
Close.
A chance to glorify God?
Close.
Okay.
It's a chance to do something. Starts with a W. Worship. Right? Every decision is an opportunity to worship God. And so this sounded very similar in that every time we spend money, right, there's this opportunity to go God's way. All right, good. What else? They're doing something with the cards back behind. Yeah.
I guess something I thought was interesting is the point where they're talking about how we need to be balanced in how we plan for this. And I like the example that he gave of how, God provides us this money to be stewards, and if we blow through it and then we come to a time of crisis and we're sitting there praying for a second chance, sometimes God might give it to you and sometimes he might not.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because I think that comes back to he's always going to provide for us, but then sometimes it's our responsibility to find the way to provide for ourselves, or in an organized fashion.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Yeah, so sometimes his provision comes beforehand, and then he expects us to be a little bit on the discipline side of things. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah. Yeah,
It's gotten better.
I mean, this could be a little. Howdy. Just let me know we got class in here. That's okay. All righty. So, anything else? Yeah.
I just think of it more as like your tithing.
Okay.
As well. So it wasn't necessarily brought to the attention, but it's something that we want to put into our budget.
Yes.
And so putting that first and then figuring everything out after that. So that's our number one.
I would want you to hear that loud and clear from me in here. I think if you make tithing a priority, and if you can't right now, so tithing is, from a definition standpoint, is 10%, right? So that's what a tithe is. And if you can't make that, right, then start somewhere. Start with 1%. Start with 5%. But make it your goal to at least hit 10%. And then the New Testament model isn't tithing; it's your first fruits, and it's giving with a joyful spirit. So it might be more than 10%. I know a couple pastors. I am not in this boat, but I know, who do reverse tithing. And so reverse tithing would be what?
90%.
They give 90% away and live off of 10%. Now, either they live in poverty, or they just make a boatload of money, right? So either which way, but I think making sure that you're putting God first with your money, because really that is it's a chance to worship Him. It's also a chance to trust Him. God, you've given us this. We're giving 10% back, and we're going to work within this 90%. So, okay, good. Glad you brought that point up. Yeah, because I don't think he doesn't highlight that in the chapter, but I think that's a big thing. Anything else? Yeah.
Kind of along those lines, I'm just curious if you have any advice as far as tithing. You've got taxes, And I guess my point is, when you hit retirement,
Yeah.
I mean, you just continue to tithe all the way through,
Yeah,
right?
so I know some people who are very like methodical with it, right? And then there are others who are do I tithe on the gross of my
Yeah, that's what
paycheck,
I'm getting
or do I tithe on the net of my paycheck?
Right.
And then what happens when I do get to retirement? I think like a good general rule of thumb is if money is put here, tithe on that. Now, you might say, so what about that gross part of my paycheck? Because isn't that God provides that as well? And just an easy rule of thumb from my perspective is then, tithe on your income tax return if you get that. So I don't think God is up in heaven with a little, what's the sliding chart with the little, oh shoot, what are those called? Those calculators.
Yeah.
Abacus, thank you. Yeah, I don't think he's up in heaven with an abacus, right? But it is a chance to glorify him. Now, I know some who do tithe on the gross of that, and if you can, right on. But I don't think it doesn't have to be by the law on things. So is that helpful?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
We always used to say, you want God to bless you on your gross or bless you on your net?
There you go. Bless on the gross. It would be yeah. Any thoughts?
On the budgeting thing, I think alludes to it, but it didn't come through, at least when I was reading it, real clear to me, and I might have skipped over something, but I think, sitting down and planning and goal setting, we were just talking here at the table, really helps you to put names on dollars
Yeah.
and be more intentional, and so thinking, long term, what are some of those big financial goals that you
Yeah.
need to work to, because it can take years and years to get towards that.
Yeah, and it's small amounts at the beginning that can give you a breath of fresh air later on down the road. So you all are at the beginning. I'm not as far along as you are, but I am starting to feel the pinch when it comes my daughter's a junior this year, she'll be a senior next year, and then college, right? And so what about saving there for that? Or is this how are we going to do this? It might not seem like it's that big a deal now, but it will be a big deal later on down the road. And I think therein lies some self-discipline things. Hey, Sean, you looking for somebody?
I thought they were doing an orientation for this.
Not.
Not in this one?
Megan, do you know where it is? Cool. So, on that note, I heard some Google app stuff going on over here. How does everybody keep track of their finances? Because for my wife and I, and now technology's come a long way. That makes it easy to share. But that was a difficult part for us in reconciling checkbooks and not spending more than what we had. So what do you guys do?
I use an app called Mint.
Okay, so you use Mint.
Yeah, so you can put your credit card, your loans, if you have a car loan, it's on there.
Yeah.
And then you just budget for different sections you can add, and then it'll keep track of it with your bank statement.
Yeah, and that's connected to
And it's-
Quicken, right? Or at
Oh, no.
least Intuit, who,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's free, it doesn't cost anything.
Correct, yeah. And so
And
Mint's a
so-
great,
It'll give you notifications, like when it says your check has been deposited. It'll
Yeah.
say, there's a large deposit in your
Yes.
account. That's the best notification.
yeah, although that can be scary, when you make a mortgage payment too, because it says a large chunk of money's been
Yeah.
taken out of your account. It doesn't say it like that, it's a little bit more,
Yeah.
yeah. But what's happened? Oh, it was just the mortgage, okay. Yeah, so Mint, okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
We use Quicken, and
Okay.
we both have the Quicken app, so
Okay.
that has solved the problem for keeping track of each of our expenditures.
Yes, yeah. On that note, every dollar is a new one that came out. It's either from Ron Blue or the other guy,
There we go.
Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. I think it might be Dave Ramsey. But the way that one works is kind of similar to Mint. You plug it all in, and then all of your expenditures every day populate on the side, and you just drag it into your pre-made budget, and then you can tweak it every month. It's a simpler approach, I think, than Mint, but it's not free either. So kind of some give and take. But point being, there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's the I heard the spreadsheet kind of.
Like Excel.
Yeah, Excel or Google Sheets. either
Google
which one.
Sheet is,
Yeah.
yeah. Share's easier.
Yeah.
It's on your phone.
Yep. Yeah. So I would just encourage you to start having conversations around finances. It doesn't mean that you have to necessarily join accounts yet, or anything along those lines, but start having those conversations. So how much did you spend today? How much did you spend today? Just start having those. Otherwise, you can end up, that can be a whole brand new thing. That can be harder to navigate. Yeah.
What is your like approach or opinion, I guess, on joint accounts? Like, do you think that should be a must when you get married, or do you think?
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw this in the category of wisdom.
Yeah.
I find it most beneficial to have one account. I think there's some trust there.
Yeah.
And so that can be the hardest thing, especially if you're a saver and your fiance is a spender. That can be a trust thing. Like, I've seen how he or she spends money, and it's safer in this one and not this one. But the idea of becoming one, right, in every area of your life, I think that one account reflects that.
Okay.
Are there reasons to have separate accounts? I think there are, but you should have equal access, right? There shouldn't be hidden accounts. In my office, that's usually a flag when couples come in and there are accounts that the other one doesn't know about. And there's lots of reasons, but most of the time they're not holy reasons. Yeah. So, any wisdom, Brad, Angela, on that?
I agree with you. I mean, I think if you don't, the question is, why don't you?
Yeah.
Because there's usually a bigger issue to address,
Yep.
and to walk through, because it's representation of some distrust or misspending. I mean, I can think like, I think like my parents when they were older. My dad was a collector and liked guns and coins, and it was difficult for Mom because she was wanting to help the kids with college and things like that, and I saw them go from joint account to two accounts where she put her money and she gave to the kids and he gave to the gun collector.
Yeah.
And it was like, Mom and Dad, there's a bigger issue here to walk through, and
I mean, I agree. I've just been actually given the advice not to, and I was just kind of curious as to why, because the reasons that they say not to seem kind of, like you said, like a red flag and seem like a bigger issue.
Yeah, it's easier to do whatever you want and not be out in the open with your own separate account. Yeah. So.
How about coming together on tithing? I mean, because if you're struggling in these account things, then how do you decide as a couple to tithe? What are your suggestions?
So one, I think both have to be convinced scripturally that you have to be doing it. So, and this would fall under equally yoked, by the way, which is a biblical mandate, that you be equally yoked. So now, I'm not saying you have to agree down to the penny, but it will cause division among you if one says, nope, I don't have to give any money to God, and the other one says, oh, I want to give as much as I can. Can you see how that would be an issue, right? And so I don't know if I have any advice other than you both have to be sold out to giving back to God a chunk of what God has given to you. Now, a good rule of thumb is 10%. If you can do that right away, just do that. Like I know that like when I've sat down with I haven't done this in a while, but when I had to buy a car and I had to finance it, and they take a look at my finances, I could afford like a really nice car. But I know in my head, I can't. That money is each month it is going to God. It's not even a question. And so when they start talking, oh, you could afford. No, I can't afford that. Right? One, that would be dumb. But two, I can't afford that. I know it's already gone. Yeah.
So how do you feel about giving with your time?
That's good.
Because I feel like I totally agree with tithing and believe in that. But sometimes it's challenging, especially when you're starting off, and to be able to give with your time and financially. Yeah.
So my suggestion is stick with the money. When it comes to tithing, I do think we need to give of our time. And in affluent societies, sometimes giving your money is easier than giving your time. But I also think, by and large, that can be an excuse to not give money. I think there's a good biblical argument to give money. Time too. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and. I don't know. Is that kind of what you were going after? Yeah. Other questions?
Just that, the Ron Blue that was
Yeah.
referenced in the chapter.
Yeah.
Is that a local group?
There are local groups. I don't think Ron Blue's from here. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's from here. But like I know somebody who is a Ron Blue kind of consultant. So yeah, whether it's Ron Blue or I forgot his name already. Dave Ramsey. Thank you. Dave Ramsey is what's his
Financial piece.
financial piece, and Ron Blue is Crown Financial. I think those are the two that seem to be very, very helpful. And what they're known for are the cash envelopes, where you take cash out, actually, and you stick them in the envelope, and when all the money in the envelope's gone, you're done spending in that envelope. That's kind of the basic thing. So,
I would say on the financial class, I mean, I think there's like a whole lot of areas to grow in oneness, and to be very aggressive in growing when you're young, because you come from often two different perspectives of families and traditions, and there's a lot of things to grow in, and so, like take a year or 6 months and take a financial class together.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the issues only come up when there's conflict, and that's not a very good time to work through it. So if you take a class together, it's like close enough to be pertinent, but far enough away not to be conflictual.
Yeah.
And so, and set those principles early in life, and so you're ahead of the curve versus trying to catch up later.
Yeah.
And so whether it's in communications or finance or children, how to raise children, I mean, just God's going to grow you in so many ways. And so you guys are doing a great job being here for this. Just keep that going.
Yes.
Always, doing something new. So if it's a financial peace university, that's great, because every week you come together to class, there's a new topic that you have to make a decision on as a couple. And so rather than like burying you with a whole bunch of it, it's just like, okay, this week we need to think about life insurance. This week we need to think about how we do our budget. This week we need to think about, and so those are all great things.
Yeah, absolutely. I would amen that all over the place. And Rob Green, there's not enough room in this chapter for him to unpack what he does in pre-marriage counseling. But he goes all the way through planning for retirement and up now at this age, so that you are ready to go. Now, if you choose not to follow that, that's one thing. But at least you have the knowledge in your head. So, yeah. All right, well, I want to shift here just a little bit, and I want to use finances. And really, the question, how will you guard your marriage against greed, is where we're going to springboard off into this, what I'm going to call heart idolatry, heart worship thing. And if I had my magic feather, more than you learning all of what we've learned so far, you would know this perfect. Like, not you wouldn't know your heart perfect, but you would understand this concept with perfection. And most importantly, before you said I do, you would know where your spouse tends to lean with heart worship, and your spouse or your future spouse would know where you tend to lean or struggle in when it comes to heart idolatry, because this really is what drives what we do. All right, so hopefully that's enough of a little commercial there to pique your interest. Okay, so I want to start here with the heart. Now, when I have the heart, we're talking about the inner man, right? Give me some other words that make up the inner man that you are aware of from Scripture.
Your thoughts or your soul?
Okay. Your thoughts or what?
Or your soul.
Or okay, thoughts, soul. Good. Motivations. Belief. The other ones come to mind?
Desires.
Yeah, desires. right? How about your will? All of those things that really make up who you are, like the real you. Not the you that Ben Marshall has gotten to see and know just a little bit, but the real you, the real part of you that God knows intimately. And hopefully the part of you that you're going to share with your future spouse here shortly, and in very, very vivid terms. Okay, so here's this heart. And we know things exist in the heart. We're going to get there in just a second. But before we do, we're going to talk about things called influences. Because they do just that. They influence you, right? So they don't come from within. They come from without. And sometimes those influences can be big. And sometimes those influences can be small. All right, so I want to make sure we're tracking on the right train track here. Give me some examples of influences. Friends, absolutely, right? For the good and for the bad, they can influence you. What else? Media, absolutely, right? And we're going to throw in there not only the media that you watch on TV or listen to, but social media. Okay? Yeah. Family. Yep. So we've got this category of other people, but big influences under that category: family and friends. Okay? What else?
Marketing, propaganda.
Yeah. All that kind of stuff, right? Advertising of some sort. Yeah. Which they are getting very good at. And they're throwing it out there everywhere, right? Yeah.
Fake news.
Yeah, absolutely. I found, so this is a little insight into Ben Marshall and how weird I am, at least in my thoughts. I can't stand, like, knowing that I've paid money for an item and their branding is on the outside. Somehow I feel like I have paid them money to advertise for them. So, like, if I'm, like, in the shower, I'll take the label off. It drives my wife crazy. Like, and you might think, yeah, drive me crazy. Like, she's like, where's the conditioner and the shampoo? I don't know anymore. So, but that's just how I think. And I did find brandless stuff the other day. Like, it started populating, I think, on my Facebook page. Like, there's no branding. It just says shampoo on it. Yes. Finally, somebody has hopped in my boat. Okay, so marketing, all that to say marketing, yes. What else? Influences. Church, yes, absolutely. Church is a huge influence. What else? So what?
Your job.
Your job, yes. And so that can, all of these arrows here stand for pressure, right? So putting pressure on our heart. Good, what else? You guys are doing outstanding with influences.
Culture?
Yeah, culture, big time. Good. A couple more things I want to make sure hits the radar before we're done throwing some things out. Yeah.
Strangers.
Okay, so just people we don't know. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Anything else? I got 3 in my head. I want to make sure we get up there. Number 1, health. Right? So if you're sick, you got a cold, that influences you. If you get the flu, that influences you. So health. And then money. See, I'm tying that into our finances, right? Money. And last but not least, in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, I like that. We're going to add 4. Weather.
I thought you were going to say marijuana, but that's really...
Well, yeah, that might lead to... We're going to talk to behaviors on the other side, right? Well, then you can pick that up over there. Okay, the other one, though, is traffic. Yes, traffic. Okay, so we've got all of those things listed as influences. Now, I can't blame those things for why I do what I do, but they do influence us. Tracking with me? Okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to skip to the other side. Now, that's supposed to represent a little hole with an arrow coming out because Jesus did say, out of the heart comes everything that we do. Right? And in Solomon, in Proverbs 4:23, he talks about guarding our heart with all diligence, for from out of it, right, flows the springs of life. So, Now give me some list of behaviors.
Oh, marijuana.
There you
we
go. All right.
All right.
Yeah. So smoking. We just throw that out there, right? Okay. What else? Anger. So there are angry behaviors, and there's another way we're going to illustrate anger up here. So we're gonna hang our hat on that for just a little bit. Good job bringing that one up. What else? Behaviors.
Generosity.
Okay, so giving, right? Yeah. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Generosity.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
generosity.
Yeah, I want to make sure I do it. Okay, good. So giving. So that's on the positive side of things. Using drugs on the other side of things. What else? There's a lot in between there.
Overspending.
Okay, so overspending, right? Or maybe,
Debt, maybe.
okay, debt, overspending, and maybe you're, instead of overspending, you're saving. Like, I won't let any of it go. Okay? Did I hear something in the back? Greed. Okay, so we're going to hang that over here too. Because that's another one. What would be a behavior that flows from greed? Like what's a greedy action?
Overworking.
Okay.
Workaholic.
Okay.
Gambling.
Okay. Gambling. Absolutely. So there could be that there. You think of anything else? Jealousy. Give me a behavior that might flow from jealousy.
Like, well, I was just thinking, like, in the book, when it said, looking around at friends and family that might be able to afford more than you.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's just how, it's just kind of how it is. And I feel like part of that, you might try to be greedy, trying to keep up with that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
For sure. And so that would be, like, under the behavior column then, there's one, I'm looking around, right? And my heart is doing something.
Comparing.
Yeah, so behavior would be comparing. And it also might be kind of getting up here to overspending. Right now, I'm going to buy, fill in the blank. And I love what, I think he made this statement in there. We often want now what it took our parents a lifetime to achieve. That's huge. And I would say that defines our culture in a big way. We want it now. I left my home that had a hot tub and all these other things, and I want those now. And America has made a way for us to be able to do that.
I blame Chip and Joanna Gaines.
I
blame them. And the fact that they lived in Waco, Texas.
Yeah, I wish my wife was here to hear that.
Yeah.
I blame Chip and Joanna too. Yeah. I was at an auction last night. I bought some candlesticks that Joanna Gaines would have been very proud that I purchased. So, okay. So behaviors usually end with the word "ing," and that can be helpful to differentiate between what I'm feeling and what I'm doing. Because with the English language, it gets really lazy, right? Like, I think anger might be one great illustration there. Out of the heart, there are angry things I can do, angry actions that I can do, but I can also feel anger, right? And so, but we're using the same thing. Well, why'd you do that? Because I was angry, right? We can use that word to describe multiple things. So there's behaviors over there. Now, behaviors. Are we responsible for our behaviors?
Yes.
I would hope everybody would say yes. The Bible would absolutely clearly say yes. We cannot blame our behaviors, especially on our influences. Right? The Hebrews tried to do that. In Ezekiel 18, God got on them about it. He said, you're not going to use the proverb, my dad ate sour grapes, and now the children's teeth are set on edge. That was a proverb that went through the nation of Israel over and over and over. And basically, I'm doing what I'm doing because my parents did what they did. It's their fault. Right? And God said, nope, you're not going to use that anymore. So there's no blame shifting. You hear that in Adam and Eve, right? When God catches Adam, what does he say? Yeah, it was, now, if you follow it here, it's the woman you gave me,
Yeah.
right? So he's blaming God. So there's this double blaming. And then Eve, who does she blame?
The snake.
The snake, right? And so blame shifting is just something that's habitual. Wait till you have kids and they get verbal. They will blame shift all over the place, and you'll have to help correct them with that, right? Okay, so there's behaviors, and we've got some things that are in the middle, or that are in our heart. Notice I've got things that are under the emotions category. And I promise, we're going to tie this into finances and greed here in just a minute, because I want you to be able to guard your marriage against greed. So, fear, everybody kind of comprehend what fear is, right? Fear is absolutely just wanting to stay away from something, stay clear of something. Anger, right? Anger is just, that is a judgment call that something wrong has happened. That's what anger is. Or that's when anger is produced, right? Something wrong has occurred. Now, the standard by which you're using can be wrong, and then you're angry for the wrong reasons. Okay, and then you've got worry that's kind of like sitting in a rocking chair, a whole lot of work, and you're not going anywhere. Right? And then I threw happy in there for a reason, and I'll show you that reason in just a second. All right, so do emotions cause us to do what we do? What do you think?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, okay. Anybody else?
I don't think that the emotion is wrong. I mean, God gave us emotions, but it's what we choose to do with them.
Okay. All right, good. So emotions, and I would want you to remember this. Emotions are kind of like the lights on the dashboard of a car. Right? What do lights on the dashboard of a car do?
Tell you something's wrong.
They tell you something's wrong, right? Or at least something's going on. Can you have faulty dash lights?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can. Unfortunately, they're rare. Most of the time when dash lights go on, they're right. Now, you heard my voice, unfortunately. I hate when lights on the dashboard go on. Why do you think I hate that?
You have to spend money.
I have to spend money, right? That's why. I actually should be very thankful that a light goes on the dashboard of my car. Why?
Because then it doesn't break down inside the
Yeah,
road.
I'm not stuck at 1:30 in the morning coming home from an auction, right? Okay. So emotions are very similar to that. When fear goes off, and everybody experience fear? I hope so. This isn't like foreign. Okay. When fear goes off, it's saying something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And you can tangibly feel that. Right? Your senses kind of pick up a little bit. You might be a little bit more aware of what's going on around you, right? Now, there's fear that's run amok, right? Or fear of things that aren't happening, or fear of situations happening that aren't happening, or fear of things happening where they can't happen. Those are known as phobias, right? Arachnophobia would be one. Can you think of any other phobias? Claustrophobia, yeah, right? Okay, so fear, though, is something I can tangibly feel, and it gets our attention. Right? Pay attention, something's going on, something's going on, something's going on. And then we act in response to that often. But here's the other part of our heart. All right, now I didn't label any of these. These are just squares. What do you notice about the squares, though?
Different colors.
Okay, they're different colors. Okay, which means they're different from each other. They're not the same thing. And what else? I heard somebody else say it. Different sizes. Right, which means some have more influence than others. But here's how I want you to think about these squares. Think of them as heart idols. Areas of worship. Things screaming for your attention. Okay? Kind of at least heard my voice on that one. All right? Idols work this way. They get you to say, I will sin if I don't get, fill in the blank. Or, I will sin in order to get, fill in the blank. All right? So give me, and I realize I just shotgunned this thing out there. So let's kind of talk through this together as a group and learn together as a group. Give me what you think, some things that might be idols.
Your home.
Your home. Okay. So I will sin in order to get.
Something you don't really need for, like a 60-inch plasma screen.
Okay. So material things.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I will sin, and let's just fill in the blank here. I will go into debt to get a 60-inch plasma screen TV. Okay? All right. What else? Success. All right. So are you thinking like job success or just success overall?
Job success.
Yeah.
Or success overall.
Okay, yeah. So I will sin in order to have job success. Now give me some sins, some behaviors of what that might look like for you to ensure that you have job success.
Might be neglecting your family.
Yeah. So I will neglect my family in order to ensure that I have job success.
Neglecting yourself.
Yeah, I will neglect myself in order to make sure. Now, like taking care of yourself, being healthy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, things like that.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay? Or I will, give me a sin that will ensure my job success.
Cheat.
I will cheat. To ensure my, and so now we're talking about behaviors over here, right? I will do those things in order to ensure that I have job success. And let's stick with this for just a little minute. What if my success at my job is starting to be threatened? How might I feel? Worried. There's the worry. Right? So now that worry light is going off, job success is in danger, and what might I do? Cheat. Right? Or fill in the blank. Right? Now what influences over here might be inhibiting my success? Family. What else? Health. Okay, good. What else? Who at your job can stop your success? Co-workers, your boss. Right? So maybe you have a boss that is just a nightmare. And he gives you a bad performance review. And you're thinking, this could be the end. I have a job I absolutely love. I want to succeed. And he's giving me a bad performance review. And so the worry starts going off, right? Or maybe it's not worry, maybe it's anger. And what do you do in response to that? Here's a boss, overly critical. Maybe he's even lying about you. What might be a behavior, not of you, but of somebody?
Any gossip about this?
Yeah, maybe gossip. Right? Or we have lots of now, I shouldn't say lots, it's not that big, but I mean, there are numerous news stories anyways of people who come in and do physical violence over this kind of thing. Right? You see how, it kind of on a rough way, how this might start working? Right? So let's think through this. What if, starting from a very early age, somebody is being told, so here's influences, you're a good person, you're special, you're unique. You need to have people pay attention to you, okay? Here's all these outside things, right? What idol might start to develop in there?
Pride.
Okay, some pride. Something in the area of pride, right? You matter. You can do anything that you want to do, and I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm just saying you can do anything that you want to do. You're special. You're unique. Well, as they grow up, as they get a little bit older, now they're not being told that. Now maybe instead of getting all pluses in school or whatever symbol, now they're getting like B's and C's. And they're being told, you need to work harder. How might they be feeling?
They're not special.
Okay, they're not special anymore. They're not unique anymore. And then they get a little bit older, and they don't get B's and C's. Now they're getting D's and F's. And they're just a number at a really large school. Now how are they feeling? Failure. And what might they do?
Cheat.
Okay, they might cheat.
These guys go find a gun and shoot everybody else.
They might just find a gun and shoot everybody else. You see how this works its way out? I mean, we're seeing, you guys see news reports of this every day. This is how the human heart works. Whether you're a believer or not, this is how the human heart works. All right? So, is this making sense?
Yep.
Okay, so I want to give you one more illustration. And I do have this here, because this is what I think is very important. Okay, so, I know you're not going to be able to see this. You're just going to have to believe me up here. You can come look at it if you don't believe me. On my glasses, I wrote the word acceptance. All right? Do you think acceptance can be an idol?
Huge.
Huge. I think it's probably it's probably blue up there. Right? The Bible calls it fear of man. All right? So the two-sided coin of fear of man is, on the one side, I absolutely have to be accepted, liked. On the other side of the coin is, I absolutely fear rejection. Tracking with me on this one? Okay. So it can be a heart idol, absolutely wanting people to like me and absolutely fearing rejection. Now, I'm looking out at you right now. What am I looking out at you hoping to see? Hand clap. What else? Because what's written on my glasses? Acceptance. So I'm looking for indicators that you are what?
Listening to you.
Okay, that you're listening to me.
We're accepting what you're saying.
You're accepting what I'm saying.
Friends.
Friends. You're not enemies, right? And so give me some indicators that you are my friend and that you're listening and we're not enemies.
We're awake.
You're awake. Good. That's number one. What else?
Asking questions.
You're asking questions. Yeah, if I'm asking questions right now and no hands are going up. Yeah.
Taking notes.
Taking notes. Good. What else? Yeah.
That we showed up today.
That you showed up today. Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm interpreting all of you through these lenses. Right? And you're giving me info that's coming back into my brain, and I'm doing some heart interpretation stuff. And because all of you are now staring at me, right, and you're interacting with me, how do you think I'm feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good right now because you're accepting what I'm saying. You're interacting with what I'm saying. Now, let's change this up a little bit. Let's say you hated what I was saying. You were just like, this was the worst thing you ever heard. I like that face. Yeah. So you're going to give me nonverbal clues that you disagree. Maybe you'll give me verbal clues. Give me some nonverbal clues that you disagree.
Crossing arms.
Yeah, there you go. Crossing arms. That's a good one. Say what?
Looking down. Or
Looking
not
down.
At you.
Or what?
Or not looking.
Yeah, or not looking at me. Okay. Okay, good.
Sleeping with your eyes open.
Yeah, sleeping with your eyes open. Just, okay. All right. What else?
Do that.
Okay, texting. Yeah, you're Facebooking about the class. All right. So, kind of got the point there. Now, if you're not interested in me or in what's going on, give me some nonverbals of what that might look like.
Checking the time.
Checking the time. Yeah, and not just subtly either. Like maybe you just do a full U-turn and you look at the clock. Yeah, okay? Yeah, yawn. What else?
Stretching.
Stretching. Yeah, and maybe you just go, Yeah, okay, good, okay. So all of those things. Now, I'm interpreting back this way. If these are the lenses that are on, now how am I feeling?
Hurt.
Hurt.
Worried.
Worried. Good.
Rejected.
Rejected. So the very thing I'm trying to avoid, I am now getting, right? And what might I do? Because if you all like me and you're my friends, I'm going to keep going, right? That's the, hey, right on, that's good. But if I'm either getting you're ticked or you're bored, how might I respond to that?
Stop and walk out the door.
Okay, I could just say, I don't know what's going on, but I'm out of here. I got better things to do with my sunny Sunday. Which would create all kinds of weirdness. But okay, I could do that. What else could I do?
You could get mad.
I could get mad. Yeah. So then I could come back at you. Right? Okay? Anything else?
You could change your attitude.
I could. I could change what I'm saying. Right? I could change what I'm doing in hopes that what I start perceiving will move more in the direction of acceptance. Yeah.
Ask for feedback.
I could ask for feedback. Yeah, because I could be wrong. And that's the point with this. Right? Because what could crossed arms indicate?
You're cold.
I'm cold. Yeah. What could a yawn indicate?
Daylight savings.
Daylight savings. Yeah. Yeah.
School options.
Or school auctions where you don't get home until 2:30 in the morning, right? Yeah. So, but notice this is huge, right? I am interpreting all over the place things that probably aren't true, but my heart is functioning this way. Now, if that can happen in here, do you think that can happen in marriage? Oh, you bet it can happen in marriage. Right? The first time you make a meal, and notice I didn't say which gender. First time you make a meal though, and it is not the best meal your spouse has ever had. If you've got these kinds of glasses on, how might you feel? Hurt. Right? If you sit down to do a budget, I'll drive it into this chapter, right? And you're thinking, hey, this is what I think we should do, and the other person, I think that's not a smart idea. And maybe they don't even use words like that. They're like, no, I think that's a dumb idea. Right? And you've got these kinds of glasses on. How are you going to respond? Right? Be hurt. So, you got to be careful with this. And in Ezekiel chapter 14, I want to encourage you to go there and read this together this week. In Ezekiel chapter 14, verses 1 through 5, talks about this thing called heart idolatry. I got to get this off because this is very distracting for me to have glasses written all over. But it talks about heart idolatry and how the elders of the nation of Israel, they wanted Ezekiel to answer a question, i.e. they wanted God to answer a question for them. Why are we losing all these battles? Why is Israel seeming to go down the toilet when we've always won in the past? Right? Why aren't we succeeding where we've always succeeded? And God starts talking about these guys have taken idols into their hearts. He says that there's stumbling blocks right in front of their faces. That's why I wrote on my glasses, right? The stumbling blocks get in the way of us seeing and doing what God wants us to do. I'm going to clarify this a little bit more when we get back together next week, which is why I'm not reading Ezekiel 14, 1 through 5. But I want you guys to read through it. Okay? Now let's go in here and kind of make this very practical in the area of money. So what could be a heart idolatrous thing, a square up there, that would have greed behind it?
Buying a better house.
Okay, so that would be the behavior, buying a better house. What would be the heart motive behind that, or the heart idol behind that?
Like wanting more rooms, or like bigger yard, or just a prettier house.
Yeah, so it could be, if I were to throw that in a category, maybe under the category of like pleasure, or things that make me feel good. Okay, good.
A bigger car than my neighbor's.
Okay, so now I'm comparing with my neighbors, right? So that could be some jealousy stuff going on there. right? And use those two statements. I will sin in order to get a better life. I will sin in order to be better than my neighbor. Or I will sin if I am not better than my neighbor. Okay? What else could be some heart motivations behind greed?
Wanting to go on vacation?
Say what?
Vacation?
Yeah. So that might be under the pleasure thing. Yeah? Okay?
I'm trying to think of like a word for somebody. It's kind of hard. It's
Uh,
easy to think of a scenario, but
And that's why I want to work together. So give me a scenario. Let's work together and kind of boil it down to something that might fall into the heart.
let's say you want to take your kids on like the ultimate Disney vacation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That might be like to please your kids. Like kind of
Yes.
like the pleasure, but like acceptance from your kids that they had this awesome family trip.
There you go. And what happens if they fight all the way down to Disneyland? Or you get into Disneyland and all of a sudden you hadn't budgeted for Disneyland prices. And they go by the hut that has the $20 hot dog. I haven't been there in a long time, so it's expensive to go there. And you have to say no, not right now. Hey, let's go on this ride, and they're just getting more and more discontented. And your hope, your dream of this great family vacation is like out the window. Right? Yeah, so a heart motivation could be acceptance of my kids. It could also be just a great memory. I want my, I don't want to remember. I want to remember Mickey Mouse ears and all that stuff. But the whole thing is in that one illustration of wanting to have a great vacation. Think about your honeymoon. That plays out here. What influences a honeymoon? Finances. Family.
What's in vogue?
Yeah. What's trendy at the moment? Yeah.
Expectations.
Yeah. All of that's there, and there are heart idols floating around. What are some heart idols that could be in there?
Jet skis.
Okay. So that would be what I want to do when I go on vacation or when I go on our honeymoon, right? Yeah, because if you want to do jet skis, Jenny, what would be?
I want to read on the beach.
I want to read. Oh, so can I just stop there for a second? My wife and I have completely different expectations for our vacations. You give me a fishing pole on the beach and leave me alone, and that's my vacation. And my wife likes to go 400 miles an hour. Like, she likes to get back more tired. That's not true. I feel like she likes to get back more tired than when she left. Like, those are our opposite things, right? And so if our hearts are functioning this way, our vacation can be a nightmare. Right? All right. Any other thoughts on this? Is this helpful to think through? Maybe not enjoyable. Right? And I don't want you to think this is like what I do all day. I just stare at people and like, what are your heart idols? That's not it. But this can help, because if my goal is to change influences, is that helpful? Maybe just a little bit, right? If you have a lot of what we might call negative influences around you, and you change it up, it might be a little bit helpful, but what do you take into all of those new relationships? Same heart. Right? If we just change behaviors, that's still not going to change the heart. Maybe you do something that's a little bit more positive. It's not more Christ-like, it's just more positive. So maybe you, in line with this chapter, maybe you go from spending a ton to saving a ton. So you go from being an absolute blast to be around to a Scrooge. Right? Still, and nobody wants to be around you. So it's not behaviors that we're going after, although as we change the heart, our behaviors often change. Right? And emotions, we can't really change those. Those are just like the lights on the dashboard of our car. And we can do different things. We can remove those idols, and next week we'll talk about how to remove those idols. right? And that will change how we feel. But it's really hard to tell somebody, well, stop worrying. Okay, I'll try, right? Because all those behaviors are meant, like at least ones attached to worry, those are meant to try and stop the worry. I'm trying to stop worrying. So to just tell somebody to stop doing something they're going to stop doing, it's not very helpful. All right? So I want you to think through this grid this week. Whether you're in traffic, whether you're at work, whether you're on a date, whether you're planning your wedding, right? Anybody still in the midst of that? Anybody done planning all their stuff? They're just, all right, yeah. All right, okay, yeah. So just think through this, though. Think of those categories: influences, behaviors, feelings, heart idols. And I more than anything, I want you to talk as a couple about this. Because here's the goal, right? And so here's your work for this week. Here's some things. Go back over your budget in light of what we talked about today. But I want you to talk about heart idolatry with your fiance. What heart idols do you see in yourself? So you got to think through this. Where am I prone to go? Right? And there's the pleasure category of things. There's materialism. There's acceptance. And John Calvin, if you don't know who he is, don't worry about it. But if you do know who he is, he said the heart is an idol factory. Meaning we can idolize anything. Right? So you should be able to pick out a few. Now, what heart idols can you pick out in your fiance? Right? Sometimes inviting other people to say, so what heart idols do you see in me? Where do you see me getting the most frustrated, the most angry? And if you humbly invite that this way, that can be very helpful. Very helpful. Because sometimes we're blind to the things we're blind to. It's kind of a dumb statement, but true. Right? So, think through that, and how would you like your fiance to help in regards to your heart idols? Now that's inviting somebody in. In one of the marriage books that I love to go through, one of the chapters is entitled "The Surgeon, the Scalpel, and the Spouse in Sin." And the idea behind the chapter is, how do I, as my wife's husband, bring sin up to her? And he gives 3 characteristics. He talks about the wise, the surgeon has to be wise, right? This isn't just hacking with a machete. We're going to find something eventually. Not that. He's wise. He's humble or gentle. Right? He doesn't have a machete. He has a scalpel. And then he's courageous. He actually says something. Or she actually says something. Right? So, how would you like your fiancé to help in regards to your heart idols? And then last but not least, read chapter 7 and answer the questions at the end of the chapter. Okay? Now, what I like about where we're going and what we're doing, chapter 7 is about community. And how you as a couple need to be involved in Christian community. All right? But think about this. If we go back to, well, it's not going to do it. If we go back to this here, if you were in Christian community, where you were aware of what your heart looked like, and you were aware of what others' hearts looked like generally, how tight do you think that community would be? I think it would be very tight. Like to be able to sit down and be open and honest, and to use some trendy terms, transparent and vulnerable. Not only with your spouse, but with those in the group. Right? That is what I think Jesus meant and God meant with this idea of community. And so I'm not going to go any more into that. You're going to read about that this week. So I'm going to be excited to hear next week what you came up with. And this isn't going to be one big, like, hi, my name is Ben, and this is my heart idol. I promise. We're not going to do that, okay? We'll talk generically about this. But I'm excited to hear how conversations go. Because before you say I do, you should know who you're saying I do to. And this is who somebody really is. Right? It's not meant to scare anybody, but that's the truth. Okay? Okay? So let me close this in prayer and we will be done. Heavenly Father, thank you for today and for this time. And God, we've introduced a new diagram anyways, but a very huge concept in your word. Who we are in our heart is who we truly are. Who we are when nobody's watching is who we really are. And so God, I pray that this week, what we have talked about this morning would be unpacked in real time. As those who are in here are driving and working and going to school, going on dates, further preparing for weddings, whatever they're doing, God, I pray that you would bring this back to mind. Make them aware of some things that maybe they're unaware of right now. And God, this is also we can become more like your Son. Not so we can get smarter, but so that we can become more like Jesus. So we ask that you would bless us today. Allow us to enjoy the Son, God. Thank you for the Son. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. You guys have a good afternoon.